I think we are officially live, but as always, let's go ahead and check. Fix our thumbnail really quick. All right. Think we are all set, folks. Think we're good on the live stream. We don't do too many of these. We're going to be watching the White House press briefing from yesterday, which should be pretty exciting. Hey, what's up, Brian? The Big Mac Daddy? You look already lost. Well, I don't stream too much, brother, so hey, Cece. There's a lot going on here. There's a lot happening. You guys weren't expecting a live stream, huh? I'm just hanging out on Saturday. I saw that there was a press briefing on Friday, which doesn't always happen, which tells us the White House is cleaning up Joey's little poopy diaper. So we'll get to the live stream here in a moment. If you aren't drinking coffee 24/7, what are you doing, folks? What are you doing? Working as usual. Hey, I gotta work later today as well, my friend. So I feel you on that one. Making money in Joey's Bidenomics economy. Things are crazy, which is interesting because if you look at the economy itself, it actually looks pretty healthy. But when you look on an individual level, people are really struggling. Eggs are up, milk is up, and they're saying basically those prices are never going to go down. Joe is fully competent. Yeah. Hey, you know what? What are the odds? The odds are pretty good that they're going to say that Joe Biden's competent here in this stream, in this press briefing. It's guaranteed, right? Oh, Joey's all there. Oh, he knows everything that's going on. Oh, sure he does. Come on. It's remarkable because, I mean, not only are they portraying conservatives and Republicans as being idiots, but just Democrats as well. They're calling everybody idiots, that nobody could see what's going on here. It's something we don't talk a lot about on the show. Is partially they're true in terms of what they're saying of, well, not everybody's seeing what's going on here. That's why 23% of the American public think Joe Biden's fine. Because they don't watch all this stuff like you and I do. You know what I mean? They're not watching the press briefings, which, you know, we'll see what happens here. Generally, if they're trying to do a cleanup, what they'll do is they'll bring out somebody else first before jean-pierre, because not everybody's going to watch 30 minutes into a press briefing. You know, they'll turn it off because the attention span's so short. So I think we got some people in here. Live chat's going. I could see what you're writing. We got Brian in here. We got Ms. Aguilar. We got a bunch of people. We got the White House press briefing. Let's see what they have to say. Oh God, I'm nervous. Uh-oh, I think we disconnected. Are we back? All right, we're back. Sorry, I think we lost connection, then we gained connection. Huge deal that Ian Sams is there. So it's the bald-headed dude. Patrick, I'm right there with you, brother. I don't know. We got Google Fiber here, baby. We're running the top notch. Hey, Kelly, what's happening? Pat, we're back. Okay, so if you guys aren't aware, that's Ian Sams. That's the bald-headed guy. The reason why this is such a big deal for me is going back even to the Twitter files, the classified document scandal, of which this is what this is all about, where jean-pierre lied 5 times. We did an entire series on her lying to the press and the American people 5 times. So for 3 years, the press has been trying to get that dude for 3 years on that podium, and they wouldn't do it. So that tells you how bad things are and the cleanup they need to do, the fact that they're putting that dude on the podium. That's insane. I've never seen this before.
Good afternoon, everyone. Have a couple things at the top and then I hand it over to our guest today. Today, the Vice President and the White House Office of Gun Violence Prevention are hosting community violence intervention leaders from across the country to recognize their efforts in reducing and preventing violence and ultimately saving lives. God bless you. The event is a culmination of a week of activities hosted by the Office of Gun Violence Prevention for Community Violence Awareness Week. Community violence intervention programs are a key piece of the President's Safer America plan and have been shown to reduce violence by as much as 50%. That's why the Biden-Harris administration continues to make major investments in community violence intervention and other proven solutions to end the epidemic of gun violence. The President's American Rescue Plan provided over $15 billion to prevent crime and promote public safety, while the Bipartisan Safer Community Act provides $250 million in funding for community-based violence prevention initiatives. These actions are reducing crime and saving lives nationwide, with homicides and gun violence rates on the decline in 2023. We will continue to work to protect American communities from this senseless violence while calling on Congress to do its job and take further action to implement common sense gun safety measures. And finally, I also want to share a brief readout from a recent visit by senior U.S. officials to Guyana, Colombia, and also Mexico. Principal Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner traveled to Guyana and Colombia February 4th and 5th, which followed a series of other high-level U.S. visits. In Guyana, he met with President Ali and Caribbean Community CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett to reaffirm U.S. support to Guyana's sovereignty to advance economic and security cooperation and to discuss CARICOM's priorities for their February 25th meeting. Haiti and Venezuela figured prominently in these discussions, as did Guyana's priorities on the United Nations Security Council. In Colombia, we issued a joint statement following Mr. Feiner's meeting with President Gustavo Petro that covered financing for sustainable infrastructure under President Biden's America's.
You guys, let me know in the live chat. Doesn't it seem like this is the first time she's reading this? You know what I mean? Like as if she's reading it again, like it's the first time she sees this.
Partnership for Economic Prosperity Initiative, as well as ongoing cooperation on security and migration. The statement reaffirmed support for competitive and inclusive elections in Venezuela and implementation of the Barbados Agreement between representatives of Nicolas Maduro and the Unitaria Platform. Mr. Feiner expressed appreciation for Colombia for
all right. Jesus, I can't take it. Sorry, we're fast forwarding through what she's saying here.
Our prayer colleague Ian Sams from the White House Counsel's Office.
This is a big deal, you guys. This is a big deal.
Thank you, Kareem. Good to see everybody. Sure, thanks. I want to start.
Blues, you're not late at all. You literally, you're right on time, brother. Oh, and we're live streaming. So again, for those that are just joining us, this is Ian Sams, White House counsel. We've been trying to get this dude on the podium for over 3 years, and that's not an exaggeration. This guy, why? All right, I think we're back. I wonder why YouTube is hating us at the moment. That's so weird. You guys, this is a YouTube thing. This isn't a me thing. Yeah, I see the buffering. So I can see it on my end too, you guys. You can't see my screen unless I bring it over here. See how it says up there, my connection's excellent. So I think YouTube's just being a whack job. Yeah, I'll pause it though it will notify me when the connection's going in and out.
Theory, the special counsel decided that there was no case there. Notably, he said this would be true whether President Biden was president or a private citizen. The special counsel's assignment when he was appointed was to determine whether any criminal conduct occurred. He found it didn't. That was the finding. The case is closed. I want to read you something from none other than Ken Starr, who most people in this room will remember is the independent counsel who investigated former President Clinton. After that investigation, here's what he said to Congress, quote, "What I see the conclusion as being is just a determination that no criminal charges would be brought. Period. Full stop. That is it. It's all over at that stage," end quote. That rings true here. The special counsel report goes on at length about the president's unprecedented cooperation in this case. I want to share a few things about that because I think it's very important. One, when the classified documents were found, it was self-reported. The president directed his team to ensure that any classified documents were returned immediately. Why did he do that? Because the president takes classified information seriously.
Come on! He takes classified documents seriously. He had them when he was a senator. He had them when he wasn't a senator. He had them when he was a vice president. He had them when he wasn't vice president. Like, he doesn't take them seriously if they're in a box that was decaying in his garage next to his Corvette. They're in his cabinets, filing cabinets in his house, whether they were locked or unlocked, according to what the documents said. Don't give me this. There was classified documents in the streets of freaking Ireland when that dude went on a family vacation and classified it as a business trip.
He always has. He did not intentionally take classified documents. He understands documents like that belong with the government. He never made any attempt to obstruct. Two, he took unprecedented action to get the special counsel what he needed. He opened up every room in his family home and his beach house for comprehensive FBI searches, a first time in history. He sat for 2 days of interviews. An interview that I'll add, and the president talked about this last night, took place the day after the brutal attack on Israel. The president was managing an intensive international crisis. You just heard the vice president talk about this. He answered dozens of follow-up questions to the special counsel in writing. 3, he didn't exert executive privilege over any contents of the report. He was transparent. He had nothing to hide. There was a long, intensive, and in many ways, yes, excessive investigation. But for context, you should all remember, in the case of former Vice
Sandra brings up a great point. This guy's a liar up front. I mean, within the first, 30 seconds, he said Joe Biden takes classified documents seriously.
President Mike Pence, who had a very, very similar incident occur right after President Biden, the case was closed within a few months. It was a brief, one-page letter to Mike Pence. But in this case, there was a 15-month investigation. The special counsel interviewed 150 witnesses. He sought and obtained 7 million pages of documents down to emails about moving trucks during the transition in 2016 and 2017. He spent more than $3.5 million taxpayer dollars exploring every possible theory that he could. And what was the result? He reached the inevitable conclusion based on the facts and the evidence that there was no case here. And this is important to think about in context of how this report.
See the cover up here? And you guys, this is what I really want to get across, is if we were to actual show, is there's a huge strategy that's going on here in manipulating the American people. First, like I said, they're bringing up Ian Sams. They're making this whole thing about the classified documents, when the real story of all of this is the fact that Joey's head don't work. Joey's head doesn't work. What's going on? Shit, we're live, baby. So that's that. See the manipulation here is they're making about the classified documents, bringing up a guy that we haven't seen for 3.5 years on that podium, which should have been up there many of times, talking about something and lying to us, saying, well, there is no case here. Well, there was no case because the dude, her, said, hey, the guy's not competent. His brain's not functioning correctly. Not the fact that he didn't break the law. He did break the law. They're just like, hey, if the guy was to be in a defense box, everybody would look at him and be like, yeah, this guy's not senile. There's no way we could go forward with it. Let that sink in. Joe Biden's not even good enough to be a defendant, to defend himself. If he's not good enough to defend himself in court, why the hell is he president of the United States?
Is being viewed and by many of you being covered. This is the first special counsel investigation ever that hasn't indicted anyone. Every theory was explored, but the facts and the evidence disputed them. The decision was that there was no case to be made. In that reality, we also need to talk about the environment that we are in. For the past few years, Republicans in Congress and elsewhere have been attacking prosecutors who aren't doing what Republicans want politically. They have made up claims of a two-tiered system of justice between Republicans and Democrats. They have denigrated the rule of law for political purposes. That reality creates a ton of pressure. And in that pressurized political environment, when the inevitable conclusion is that the facts and the evidence don't support any charges, you're left to wonder why this report spends time making gratuitous and inappropriate criticisms of the president. Over the past 24 hours, we've actually seen legal experts and former prosecutors come out and give their analysis. Former Attorney General Eric Holder said the report, quote, contains way too many gratuitous remarks and is flatly inconsistent with long-standing DOJ traditions. The former acting FBI director said he had overseen many cases like this and, quote, you have to have explicit evidence of willful retention of these documents, and that is just not present in this case. The former FBI general counsel, who I'll add was also the lead prosecutor in the special counsel Mueller investigation, said it was, quote, exactly what you're not supposed to do, which is putting your thumb on the scale that could have political repercussions. That's the assessment of seasoned professional law enforcement officials and prosecutors with deep experience at the Department of Justice.
You guys want to talk about political repercussions? How about our intelligence community withholding and lying to us, for that matter, the Hunter Biden laptop that would have swayed the election? A lot of Americans did not know that the Hunter Biden laptop was even a thing. And that if they would have known beforehand, if we weren't being lied to, then the vote would have swung in Trump's favor. How about that? I don't know where this guy gets off saying all this stuff.
Unfortunately, the gratuitous remarks that the former Attorney General talked about have naturally caught headlines and all of your attention. They're wrong and they're inaccurate, and they obscure a very simple truth that I want to repeat one last time, since I know it's hard to wade through 400 full pages. 1, the report lays out example after example of how the president did not willfully take classified documents. The report lays out how the president did not share classified documents with anyone. The report lays out how the president did not knowingly share classified information with anyone. On page 2, which I know you all read, the report argues that President will...
This guy's coming across as an a-hole, right? Well, it's 370 pages on page 2, which you were probably capable of getting to. Like, we're not capable of reading all of it? Like, isn't this guy coming across as, like, they're treating us as if we're idiots, and the press. And the press, for some reason, still massage their shoulders. They treat them with kindness. Well, I know you guys read up to 2 pages. What a dick, right?
Willfully retained materials. But buried way later on page 215, the report says, and I quote,
that I didn't expect you guys to get to. What a jerk.
There is, in fact, a shortage of evidence on these points. 200 pages later. Put simply, this case is closed because the facts and the evidence don't support the theories here. The gratuitous comments that respected experts are saying is out of line are inappropriate. And they shouldn't distract from the fact that the case is closed and the facts and evidence show that they reached the right conclusion. With that, I'm happy to take questions.
Thank God we get to the questions, but here's my question is, if we're going to say, and this is what the White House has been saying, that you don't support basically the information that's inside the documents, then why are you going to support the conclusion as well? Do you get what I'm saying? Is they're trashing everything and saying, well, it's not real, it's not good, it's manipulative, it's political, everything about the document, then why are you so happy regarding the conclusion, and why are you taking the conclusion as being credible if you're not going to take the rest of the document as credible? That's my question.
Couple of housekeeping. When and whom was the president briefed about on the contents of the report?
The president was briefed by his lawyers.
And second, the president, and as you mentioned again, you thought some of the characterizations were gratuitous. Does the president still have confidence in Merrick Garland after selecting her to be put in this position?
The president spoke to this last night. I can't remember which of you asked him what his thoughts were on the appointment of the special counsel, and he answered that, I think, thoughtfully and powerfully, and I don't really have anything to add beyond what the president said.
We all saw the briefing. We did a show on it just yesterday. The dude could not get a single sentence correct. He was thoughtful. He was engaged. He knew what was going on.
Just finally, does the president support the release of the entire transcript of his interview to put to rest some of these things that you think are being overlooked?
Yeah, it's a reasonable question. I think that it's important to know that we're dealing with classified materials in this conversation. There are classification issues there. I don't have any announcement on, releasing anything today, but it's a reasonable question, and there are classified stuff, and we'll have to work through all that.
So, but once you can work through, like, say, a redacted version, would the president support the release as long as you can obviously keep what needs to be kept secret?
Well, we'll take a look at that and make a determination.
Thanks, Ian. Two questions. First, you said in the topper that the president takes classified information seriously, and the president said last night that he never discussed classified material with anyone, but the special counsel's report said that on 3 different occasions he did discuss it with his ghostwriter. I understand it didn't meet the bar for prosecution, but how do you reconcile the president's statement with what's in the report?
Sure. Well, if you read the full report, it actually gets into each of those 3 instances. I think Justin rightly points out that we're talking about 3 instances out of 250 pages of evidence that they're talking about criticizing. I think it's important to look at those 3 examples. 2 of them are his own notes to himself in his personal diary that he was reading about to his ghostwriter for his memoir, for a memoir about his life after his son Beau died. And he was reading these passages that he had written to himself to share information with him, and he took pains, and the report lays this out, to express how sensitive some of the information was and that we should be careful with it. And of those 2 passages from his diaries that he talked about with his ghostwriter, weren't in the book. There's no classified information in the book. And so I want to just make that point. And the second is there's a kind of an allegation.
Well, he shared classified information, but it's okay, you guys, because the information that he shared, it wasn't in the book. Jesus Christ.
Of willfully taking a classified document that he talked about with his ghostwriter. That's false. As the president talked about last night, he was again talking about a handwritten letter that he had sent to President Obama and faxed to him about the Afghanistan troop surge. Like, these are the president's own personal writings, the president's own diary notes to himself. And I think there's an important thing to think about here. There's plenty of historical analogs. The most notable of which is Ronald Reagan, President Reagan, whose diaries very famously became a subject of a lot of attention in the country. And the Justice Department knew that President Reagan's diaries had classified information in them. Knew it at the time. He took those diaries home. He read those diaries to people. He shared the actual physical copy of the diaries, which the special counsel report talks about. Joe Biden never even gave custody of his notebooks to anybody, and they never even asked for those diaries back, and they never launched an investigation. And why is that? It's because historically, going back to the beginning of the country, presidents keep diaries. We should want our presidents to be thoughtful and deliberative about the decisions that they make on the most consequential issues of our time. And we have entrusted presidents to be safekeepers of this information, and we have expressed great gratitude, including many of you in the press, when presidents share through books and other things insights into their thinking and decision making and historical context. And so I think it's lost in the shuffle of all this that the president did what all of his predecessors had done, which was take notes for himself, keep a diary of his own daily life so that he could think back on these big moments of the time. And so, that's important to know about this allegation that there was sharing of classified
Right, is your
information.
contention that just because the president...
Again, I just want to emphasize this. This is all a strategy. The White House is playing dumb here. There's a reason why Ian Sams is up there making this all about classified documents when the real story is Joe Biden isn't fit to hold office. He's not mentally fit to even stand in a courtroom in front of a jury because he can't recall anything and he's a senile old man. That's the real story, and they're making about the classified documents, which is a story within itself, the fact that they weren't willing to go after him. But, well, his diary, you know, so he could write books and make money off the American people about his decision-making. Like, how are you going to spin this pretzel into why he pulled out of Afghanistan, why he sent 1 million barrels of our reserve to a province of China in which Hunter Biden had business dealings in? How are you going to explain that one, Joe? Joe, how are you going to explain the 40-year high inflation that was 9.1%? How are you going to explain gas prices going through the roof? How are you going to explain a lot of automobile manufacturers moving away from electric vehicles while you pursue it? How are you going to explain all these things, Joe, in a book? Is that in your diary too? Is all those things in a diary? Is your nap time schedule in your diary as well? Like, what temperature do you like your milk heated up? That's what I want to know. Is that in your diary as well, Joe?
Rewrote classified material in his own words and then shared it with somebody who didn't have the security clearance for it, that it was okay.
Well, let's look at the report. I mean, we talked a lot about the report. I understand it's long, 400 pages. I'm not sure how many people in this room have read the entire thing.
There he goes again. This guy's a dick. Like, well, you guys aren't capable of reading the document.
Page 3, which I think is what everybody's asking about and understandably says, quote, Mr. Biden shared information, including some classified information, with his ghostwriter, right? But if you go to page 248, the report says, quote, we conclude that the evidence does not establish that Mr. Biden willfully disclosed national defense information to his writing assistant. That's in the report. That's the conclusion that was made based on the evidence. And there's something else I want to add about this because we've gone back and forth. On page 1 of the report, it says the president willfully retained classified marked documents relating to Afghanistan. But on page 215 of the report, it says, quote, there's in fact a shortage of evidence on these points. On page 5 of the report, everybody read that, first few pages, says, quote, Mr. Biden's memory was significantly limited. But here's something that everybody should make sure that they see. Elsewhere in the report, he says, quote, we expect the evidence of Mr. Biden's state of mind to be compelling, pointing to him providing, quote, clear and forceful testimony. That's his comment.
Come on. Come on. I mean, you guys are saying it perfectly in the chat, right? You shouldn't read the thing. You don't need to read all 400 whatever pages this damn thing is. You're not capable of doing it because we think you're idiots. This is the White House saying it to the American people, Democrats and Republican, to the press as well. And so we'll tell you what it says. We'll cherry pick different pages to manipulate you to fit our narrative. And our narrative is Joe's clear-minded, guys. Joe's clear. Don't worry about him falling off his bike stationary, hitting a golf ball backwards, looking for dead congresswomen in the crowd, taking photos with people that aren't even in the same state, was never at the event in the first place, fumbling through his words, fighting with his teleprompter, meeting dead ex-presidents of France. Like, yeah, don't worry about all that. He's clear-minded. Oh, okay. Gotcha.
On his state of mind later in the report. And so I think it's important to kind of take the report in its totality and understand that in that report, the facts and evidence refute the theories that are floated that they explored.
I think maybe we disagree on if he should have used the word willfully last night, but there's one other thing I wanted to ask you about, which is that his attorneys said that they were going to work on a process to make sure that none of this happens again.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's the potential that this administration has less than a year left, so I'm wondering if you could detail what the timeline is on that, what you guys are considering for that type of process.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that something that this issue a year ago brought to light is that this is
17 that he had classified.
He's running and doing matters of
Hold on.
classified material.
Hold on. Sorry, I was going to the next person. I heard James Rosen speaking up and getting crazy. Rosen in the back, fired up, baby. Woo!
It's in these papers, and they have a process that you're supposed to turn those back in. But then, we had the issue with President Biden. Immediately after that, we had the issue with Vice President Pence. And I think it's important to understand that this is a common occurrence, and the president thinks that we should fix it. Like, he gave all these documents back. He knew he did not, that these governments should be in possession, that the government should be in possession of these documents. And so what we're going to do is the president's going to appoint a task force to review how transitions look at classified material to ensure that there are better processes in place so that when, staffs around the building are rushedly packing up boxes to try to get out during a transition as quickly as possible. At the same time, and up until the very moment that they're still governing and doing matters of state, they're going to try to make recommendations that can be fixed, and he's going to appoint a senior government leader to do that. We'll have more on that soon.
In 2017, that he had classified material downstairs. He boasted about it.
In your advocacy here and in the President's counsel writing back to Mr. Herr, you're saying that there were gratuitous comments, that there are false pieces of information. How is the American public supposed to process this when we also live in a world where former President Trump asserts that there was a politicized process that resulted in his prosecution related to classified documents and other things? So for the public, if Democrats and this administration say, trust the Department of Justice, trust the institutions, but you're also arguing here gratuitous political cheap shots and false assertions. How are they to process that?
Well, I talked about this actually a minute ago, and I think, when you have the former Attorney General, when you have the former acting FBI director, when you have the former general counsel of the FBI, these are experienced people at the Justice Department who spent decades working at the Justice Department, and they're saying it's gratuitous. They're saying that this is inappropriate, that this is inconsistent with DOJ policy and practice. That's them saying it. We agree. You heard the president speak forcefully about this last night. You heard the vice president speak forcefully about this today. We certainly agree that it's gratuitous. But I explained this a little bit in the opening. We're in a very pressurized political environment. And when you are the first special counsel in history not to indict anybody, there is pressure to criticize and to make, statements that maybe otherwise you wouldn't make. And, I think that it leaves you wondering why some of these critiques are in there. But I think it's also important to just fundamentally distinguish between the prior case that you mentioned. I want to be careful in terms of commenting on that. But the special counsel report goes into great detail about the differences and distinctions there. And I think it's important to understand that the criticisms that you're hearing of the gratuitous comments in the report, which are wrong, frankly, this is being shared by people who have deep experience at the Justice Department.
This is like the third time he's mentioned the fact that they're wrong about Joe Biden's mental finesse, his stamina. Like, they think we're idiots, you guys. Like, we can't see the fact that this dude has a drip tray and a helmet on when he's not in front of the cameras.
Department.
On the many issues related to memory that certainly seem to prompt an angry response from the president and from his advocates, is there anything being done to address that issue in an ongoing way? Obviously, counsel wrote asking for some of those things to be removed. It is potential that Robert Herr could be called before Congress to testify in public. Are there any steps that the administration would take addressing that specific issue? Is it in relation to overall medical physician's report of the president or other things to demonstrate what is the issue with memory, and is it a factor that deals with his capacity to serve?
Well, I have a lot of issues with the contents of that question, and Kareen's answered a lot about the president's transparency in his medical records and his physical and things of that nature. And I, leave that to Kareen to handle. But I'll say, I just read you this. Page 248, or sorry, excuse me. Later in the report, he says, quote, "We expect the evidence of Mr. Biden's state of mind to be compelling," pointing to him providing, quote, "clear and, quote, forceful testimony." I can't explain why the report veers all over the place on this issue. I can just say, and as you've heard from the vice president, you heard from members of Congress yesterday talking about their recent interactions with the president. One, Congressman Goldman from New York, talking about his interaction with the president the day before this interview, when Congressman Goldman was on the ground in Israel, and the long and intensive and detailed conversation they had about what was going on the ground. We just reject that this is true. And I think that it does raise questions about the gratuitousness, and it raises, makes you wonder why that's in there.
Thank you, Kareen, and thank you, Ian. So you are discrediting some of the findings in this report. You are discrediting some of the observations of President Biden. So why should the American public accept the conclusion that charges weren't warranted?
I'm not
sure. That was our question. That was our question at the beginning. Duh. Oh, God. Sometimes we got people with their head on straight.
Sure, I understand exactly what you're asking.
I'm saying you're...
What the fuck? Well, I'm trying to understand what you're asking. Well, let me spell it out to you, because Let the idiots spell it out to the non-idiots, right? These elites here that think that we can't read all the pages and understand this stuff and see that Joe Biden is fucking off his rocker. Let me explain to you, Ian. You're saying the meat of the documents, buddy, don't add up. They're not real. It doesn't make sense. It's politically motivated. We shouldn't listen to it. It should be removed. So if all of it, the meat of it that actually runs into the conclusion, doesn't actually connect with each other, then why should we accept the conclusion when you're not going to accept the part that actually led to the conclusion? I don't get paid $200,000+ to be White House counsel, but I'm an idiot. You guys, we're all stupid. You got to remember, we're the peasants, right? We're all the peasants according to this administration.
Claiming that much of the report is inaccurate. So why are you so confident that the conclusion is correct?
The conclusion has been obvious from the very beginning. It was a long, intensive, sort of meandering investigation that came to the conclusion that in February of last year, everybody knew that this wasn't intentional, that this was an accident, that they were found, and as soon as they were found, the president said, give them back. Get them back as soon as we can and fully cooperate with everything. So he reached the inevitable conclusion because it's the truth. The conduct of the investigation throughout and the gratuitous comments in the report are troubling and they're inappropriate. But
this is why I can't do live streams like an actual episode, is because I can't stop laughing at the stuff that you guys write in the chat. It's too good. The content is too good that you guys come up with.
I think that the finding was the obvious one because it's the truth.
President Biden blamed his staff largely for the mishandling of documents and where they ultimately ended up. Does the president believe he did everything right when it comes to handling classified material?
Well, just look at look at the report. I know it's long, but the report talks about how the evidence is that these were most likely things that were...
Can we do a counter on how many times this guy, well, I know it's long, well, you can't read it. Can we do a counter? Like, what number are we at? You guys let me know in the live chat. Is this like 6, 7 times he's referenced? Oh, I know it's long. I know you can't read it.
Packed up by staff during movements and transitions and things of that nature. So that's reflected by the report. It's not some accusation by the president. It's just true. I mean, you guys know, you guys work with White House staff all the time. We support the principal. That's our job. And principal relies on their staff to help them with things. And the president said this last night. You know, he talked about how, you know, looking back, if he had been more, he wished to be more engaged in that process of the packing and the moving things to make sure that things were being done the right way. And I think the most important thing to remember is once it was realized that something wrong had happened, he did everything right to get it back and to fix the problem.
What about all the stuff that he talked about that was in his home, in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked in his house? What stuff was he talking about? Classified materials?
Well, we talked about, I mean, the report goes on at length about this. I'd encourage you to read it. It talks about
what he said last night. He said the stuff in my house was all in filing cabinets that were either locked or able to be locked. Didn't he put them in his home?
I'm not really following the question. I think that what's clear is that, and I told this to Justin a minute ago, you know, he has personal diaries that he had. Of course he has his personal diaries. The documents that were taken were jumbled up in boxes and found inadvertently in places, and that's what happened. So
We gotta move on. Good.
Yeah, thank you. How concerned is the president and the team here that the, quote, gratuitous comments are going to damage him, damage public perception of him?
I think the public is smart, and I think that they can see what's going on. I think that they see a president who fully cooperated. I think they see a president who did the right thing and made sure everything got back. And I think that they see that this was a long investigation that ended without a case to be made. And, you know, I think that they can see and understand, you know, when people are gratuitous and make comments that they shouldn't make and that are beyond the remit of a prosecutor to do. I think that they understand that, and I think that they'll understand that the president did the right thing here.
If the 7th and 8th were obviously, or 8th and 9th were obviously like very busy days where the president was overstretched, taking calls in the middle of the night, all of this, why continue with the interview with her? Why not do it on another day? Why give him the opportunity to have these lines in the report about lapses, about timelines?
He should have thrown up roadblocks. Is that what you're saying? I mean, no, he committed to it, and
like, hey, the world is on fire. Could we do it another day?
I'll tell you what's interesting about this, and this is
what kind of question is that? The world's on fire. So let's like hold back on giving the American people information that gives credibility to all of our thinking, other than the, I don't know, the hours of tape we have of this guy fumbling through his words, losing his train of thought, just walking off the stage. Like, why would we hold off on this? These are the same people that enjoy the fact that we were lied to about the Hunter Biden laptop, and we held off on that as well.
Oddly not in the report, is at the beginning of his interview, the special counsel told the president, I understand that you're dealing with a lot of things right now, and I'm going to be asking you questions about stuff from a long time ago. I want you to try to recall to the best of your abilities, things of that nature. That's often what prosecutors would tell witnesses. So he understood that, but the president was going to commit to being cooperative. He talked about this last night. He wanted to make sure he had everything he needed, and he didn't want to throw up roadblocks.
We gotta move on. Good.
You see what they're doing here? Again, we're about 30 minutes in. It's all about the classified documents. And he's going to sit there and say, oh, well, we're going to expect you to recall certain information, as if like very detailed information. Hey, Joe, what years did your son die? Pretty traumatic event for any parent. I know when my father passed away. I could recall that because it's pretty damn traumatic. I know the exact day. Hey, Joe, when were you vice president? Doesn't know. Joe, when were you senator? And I want to also point out, this is where I think the press fell short, is what they could have done in that press briefing where Joe Biden was asked by Peter Doocy and in front of all the press, screaming at him that you guys commented about, that he looked scared, didn't know what to do, he was lost. Nobody in that room said, hey, Joe, what years were you vice president? Do you guys understand what I mean by that? Like that was the prime opportunity, is ask him a question where he would have to recall something in the past that was in the report and see if he was capable of doing it. That would have got him real good. And then everybody would have been like, oh, okay, well, that gives credibility to the very parts of which they're saying isn't credible.
Thanks, Shereen. Just a first question. Has the president read the entire report, and when was he given the report? Did he review it when his lawyers did the privilege review? And do you have any just context on when he himself found the findings of it?
We received the report yesterday from the Justice Department and formally sending it over. Obviously, the president's lawyers were doing the privilege review that we disclosed to everybody was happening and disclosed when we had concluded it. And so I think they had briefed him on the material as the client, as is typical in a legal case. And then we received the full report yesterday. The president's been pretty busy. I'm not sure he's read 400 pages. I'm not sure how many folks in this room have read all 400 pages of it, but he certainly is familiar with the contents of the report.
Just one quick follow-up. The president was animated last night, rejecting the idea that he did not remember when his son died. Can you provide a little bit more context about...
Hey, thanks, Blues. That's awesome of you, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. Whoa. Thank you, Blues. That's what the heck? Did you do that right, my dude? Thank you. That's a lot of people. I appreciate that, man. Wow. That's a lot of memberships, dude. I appreciate that, man. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you, especially in Bidenomics when things are tough.
Was he directly asked in the interview by the special counsel for the dates? Was it part of a broader conversation? I just think some additional context to understand what is in that report might be helpful.
Yeah, the president was pretty clear last night, and I think that the American people have heard from him for years about the pain and the suffering that they went through when Bo passed away, and the gravity of that. And I think to suggest that he couldn't remember when his son died is really out of bounds. The conversations in the interview back and forth, he's being asked about, file folders from a basement and how did they get there and what is that and what were you doing around that time and things of that nature. I don't want to, just to be very careful, I don't want to get into specific things while it's still in a classification process. But, it is safe to say that, of course, the president knows when his son died.
So do you have any sense of why the special counsel would write explicitly in the report that the president was unable to recall when his son died?
You'd have to ask the special counsel why he chose to include that.
Oh. Hey, can you explain why Joe wasn't capable of answering that question? Oh, well, now you got to talk to somebody else, the guy that's supposed to answer all the questions regarding what was there. Gotcha. Same thing they did with the classified documents, of which this is all about. You got to talk to the DOJ. This is jean-pierre. Oh, well, I can't answer that. You got to talk to the White House counsel. Oh, you're going to have to talk to this person. Oh, you're going to have to talk to the FBI. Well, I can't answer that because it's under investigation. So when something doesn't go their way, it's constantly, let's talk to somebody else, which when they would reach out to that somebody else, they would never get answers. They get the loop around. Go talk to the DOJ. They go talk to the DOJ. The DOJ says, hey, go talk to the White House counsel. The White House counsel says, hey, talk to jean-pierre. Jean-pierre says, talk to the DOJ.
Thanks, Ian. So you said that you told the special counsel that the criticisms of President Biden were inaccurate, gratuitous, and wrong. So how did the special counsel respond when you told them that?
I put out his report.
So they ignored.
I'm unaware of any changes that were made in response to our very strong, forceful, and rooted in evidence arguments that we provided.
And you had just mentioned how these interviews happened shortly after the October 7th attacks. The president mentioned it last night. In mentioning that, does that mean that possible memory lapses happened because he was so distracted by what was happening overseas? Or do you dispute that he had any memory issues during those hours of interviews?
I dispute that the characterizations about his memory that were in the report are accurate, because they're not. And I think the president spoke very clearly about how his mind was on other things. I mean, he was dealing with a huge international crisis of great global consequence. And, he was trying his best to answer questions in this interview because he wanted to be fully cooperative.
So there were no memory lapses during...
I think there's something important that people should remember about the way that sort of interviews like this happen. God forbid, one of you guys ever have to get interviewed by a prosecutor, and, I hope you don't. Witnesses are told, as I mentioned by special counsel, to do the best they can to recall or remember things. And they're not supposed to speculate. They want facts. They want facts and evidence. And so, I think probably in almost every prosecutorial interview you can imagine that people have said that they don't recall things, because that's what they're instructed to do. So I think that's just important context to keep in mind.
And just lastly,
Again. Hey, Joey, when were you elected president? Senator... no, Joe, president. Hey, okay, well, let's move on to that one. When were you vice president, pal? Don't recall. When were you senator? Just give us like a decade. Like, how long were you senator, big guy? I don't know. Like, it's nobody's asking him like, hey, on that classified document that was buried 5 folders down within the other classified documents, on page 45, paragraph 1, line 2, what was the 5th word in? Nobody's asking those questions. Which, like, Joe, what's your name? Kamala.
September, the president was asked about Trump's classified documents being found in Mar-a-Lago, and he said, quote, how could that possibly happen? How could anyone be that irresponsible? But there were classified documents found in the president's garage in a damaged cardboard box. So would that be considered irresponsible?
Look, I think the president made clear that he gave everything back as soon as he found out that he had it. And so, I think that it's fundamentally incorrect to try to analogize the situation, or and frankly, the report says that too. And the idea that that he did anything except be totally cooperative and to take great strides to ensure that the classified documents were returned speaks for itself.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Ian, the vice president referred today to the report as being politically motivated. Is that the position of the White House, that this report was politically motivated?
Well, I saw the vice president's remarks. I thought they were very powerful, and I talked about this a little bit at the top of our conversation here today. There's an environment that we are in that generates a ton of pressure because you have congressional Republicans, other Republicans attacking prosecutors that they don't like. And it creates, a need. If you're going to determine that charges weren't filed, people are human and they're thinking through, what do we need to do? And, it leaves one to wonder exactly why he included a lot of the criticisms that were in there.
Also, with regard to the staff, President Biden has had some staff members who've worked for him for decades. He referenced their mistake last night. Has he had visit with any of these staff members? Do the staff members who are responsible for taking those documents to his house, do they still work for the president? Have there been any consequences?
Well, I think I talked about this also before. I mean, this is an issue that has plagued administrations of both parties for 50 years, where...
So the answer is no, which is so typical. Nobody ever gets fired for doing a disastrous job. Nobody ever gets fired for breaking the rules. And I want to just emphasize, again, regarding January 6th, you had this entire hubbub from the Democrat Party. Insurrection! It was an insurrection! Take them off the ballot! So they show us 6 minutes of footage out of the 40,000 hours for years. And then it shows, behind the scenes, revealed by Tucker Carlson, that they actually looked at all 40,000 hours. We saw the timestamps of which they looked at, but they were selective in what they showed the American people. So it's just interesting that you have this whole cover-up taking place constantly of, well, it's not their fault, meaning the leaders, it's their staffers' fault, because the Democrats are pushing this whole January 6th, ended up blaming it on their staffers as to why the American people didn't see the other portion of the 40,000 hours. We only saw that 6 minutes of tape. They had no idea is what they said. Oh, I didn't know that 40,000 hours existed. I never saw it. It was our staffers. Joe Biden, why didn't put the boxes in the garage? I never knew it was there for a decade or two. Decaying. I'd have no idea. Oh, the boxes were on the driver's seat of the Corvette. I had no idea. I just sat on them. It's amazing how it's always everybody else's fault, but it's never their actual fault. Typical.
Accidentally, things...
At least Trump wasn't blaming his staffers, from my understanding, right? I put those fucking boxes right in the kitchen table. I used them as coasters. Okay, come and get them. Come and get, if you want them, come to Mar-a-Lago. Play 18 rounds of golf with me and we'll take a lookie. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like he was doing the blame game. The bro was just like, they're right there in the vault. Locked up, nuclear codes and everything on a napkin. You know? It's just... Joey's like, it was my staffer.
Things get shuffled up and taken and removed. And the archives has, you know, literally they put a frequently asked questions page on their website about what you do if you find them accidentally. That's how often it happens. And, you know, he gave them all back as soon as he found out about it. We understand that mistakes happen sometimes. I'm not going to get into sort of individual witness or parsing like that from the report.
It didn't happen for President Obama, President Clinton, President Bush Sr., or President Bush Jr. I don't know if 3 people makes it a common...
That's actually not true. Officials from all administrations from the past, you know, half century or so have had this accidentally happen. But you're parsing 2 things. You asked me about the fact that, and the report states this clearly, that this was likely the result of inadvertent packing by staff. And you asked exactly about the staff issue, and so I'm responding about the staff issue.
Okay. And you can't say whether the staff still work for President Biden?
Well, I'm saying that the question you're asking about the frequency and normalcy, unfortunately, of mistakes like these being made, they happen. And what matters is how you respond to it. And when you find out that there was a mistake that was made, you give everything back, and that's a determination.
All right, so I'm fast forwarding a little bit because the reporters that come up here as I'm sliding through usually don't answer that great of, or ask that great of questions, but we got our boy Philip Wegman lined up, baby. We know Phil has catched the show before. Phil, we love you, baby. Keep it up.
Okay, Phil in the back.
Thank you. A follow-up and then a separate question. You said a moment ago that the president was responding to inaccurate information when he claimed last night that all the stuff in my home was behind locked filing cabinets. Is he entirely clear now, at this point, where all the documents were discovered? And does he now know that his statement about locked filing cabinets is false?
The report lays out in 400 pages of detail all of the evidence and all of the review that they conducted in looking into this matter. The president made sure that all of the classified documents that were found were returned promptly to the government, which is what you're supposed to do, which is why this is the inevitable conclusion that there is no case here.
And that's not what I asked, though. Does he know that his statement...
Yes, Phil, thank you. Thank you. I was sitting here going, he's not answering anything remotely about the question. That's not what I asked. I love that.
Full conclusion that there is no case here.
And that's not what I asked, though. Does he know that his statement yesterday that all the documents were behind locked cabinets was inaccurate? Is he clear in his mind? I know that last night was perhaps stressful, confusing environment, but does he
I
now?
understand what you're trying to ask, Phil, and I think that I've answered the question.
So I have a separate follow-up question, and that is, my follow-up question after that lack of a response was, there was an eye-popping...
Oh my God! My follow-up question from that lack of response. Oh my God. Phil, you're on it today, baby. Thank you.
Question, and that is, my follow-up question after that lack of a response was, there was an eye-popping moment in the report, specifically about the president's ghostwriter, and that was that after he learned that the special counsel had began an investigation, he deleted some of his recordings. Now, those recordings were able to be recovered. What I'm curious about is, can you say definitively whether or not the president or anyone else at the White House was in contact with his ghostwriter?
This is in the report. I mean, read the report. In the report, it says that they sought this, they looked into this, and that they didn't. So that's in the report.
They were not in
We're going to wrap this up. Go ahead, John.
Thank you, Kareem. Ian, thank you so
Sure,
much.
yeah.
2 questions. Just for clarity, you're from the White House counsel's office,
Correct.
But you're not a lawyer, correct?
That's correct. I'm a spokesperson.
Okay. Any chance that we'll get the White House counsel to come out here and answer questions directly?
Should I be offended by that? I mean,
Yes, you should, because you suck as much as Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Anthony Blinken, Jen Psaki, the prior White House press secretary, as well as Karine Jean-Pierre. You all suck.
I get offended all the time.
I know. I mean, what? I mean, come on.
You did say something that was factually incorrect. There has been a previous special counsel probe.
John, finish your question, please.
I was asked to come today.
Yes! Yes! They're all giving him the double middle finger. Oh, this is better than I could have hoped for. Well, you did lie before, you a-hole, and you sat there and disrespected us for 42 minutes, saying that we're not capable of reading the entire document, lying straight to our face, telling us we're not dealing with reality, telling the American people they'll be able to figure it out, telling us that the entire document was crap, but you're going to only accept the conclusion because you like it. Woo!
By your colleagues in the press corps, and we happily obliged.
As you know, former President Trump, he was charged with...
They're laughing! Yes! Peter's laughing. Well, she is laughing. Look at the whole fucking front row. Oh, you guys loving this? This is perfect. Everybody in the front row and the second row, their heads are down and they're laughing. Yes!
a slew of criminal...
Holy shit! I gotta play it back. It's so damn good. Everybody is laughing because they just dissed the entire White House right now.
As you know, former President Trump,
look at all of them,
was charged with a slew of criminal charges related to classified documents in his possession, including counts of willful retention of national defense information. In this report, it's made clear by the special counsel that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified material. He kept it in unsecured locations after his vice presidency, which presented, according to the special counsel, serious risks to national security. So my question to you, Ian, is can you explain to every voter out there, every American, why it is that President Biden essentially is let off the hook and former President Trump is now facing these slew of criminal charges, which seem to most people very similar?
Great wind-up, John. I mean, really a good wind-up. I talked about this already. Page 1, willful retention. Page 2, 15. There is, in fact, a shortage of evidence on these points. The report itself goes through in great detail the facts and evidence that led to the obvious conclusion that there was no case.
Okay, so he's going to spit out his same crap again. Let's get to the... Let's get to the woman of the hour, the one that we hate the most, that sucks at her job, that's suckling out of your wallet $180,000 plus benefits.
They're here. They came. Okay. Go ahead, Elmer.
Excuse me. 2 questions just following up on comments that the president made last night. President Biden called the military operations in Gaza over the top. And this comes after the White House has pretty consistently defended Israel's conduct. What's changed, and what exactly did the president mean by over the top?
Yeah, so first of all, I would say nothing has changed. His position hasn't changed. I don't think his messaging has changed. We don't think his messaging has changed. He doesn't believe his messaging has changed. This isn't something, the first time he's done so, what you heard from him yesterday. Look, the president made it very clear in his comment that he was obviously talking about Israel's conduct in Gaza, and he's been clear. He's been clear that the United States wants to see Hamas, a terrorist organization, defeated. He's been very clear on that. That is a shared goal that we have, obviously, with Israel. But at the same
This is the idea that when Joe Biden was supposed to do that press conference and show that he's actually clear of mind, since she said the word clear like 5 times in the same sentence, that he actually mixed up Egypt with, I believe, Mexico. So the same presser that he's supposed to be out there showing that he's coherent, he's not coherent at all.
time, at the same time, while we have said that, we have been also very clear, the president has been very clear, that they must do so by ensuring that their operations are targeted and conducted in a way that we are protecting innocent civilians. And that is something that we have been incredibly consistent about here. In
Well
this
said, Blues. Well
we want
said.
to make sure that we are also protecting innocent civilians. So that is what the president was speaking to yesterday. He was asked obviously a direct question, and he answered that.
Okay, and then just, secondly, the president last night bristled against the fact that many Americans have concerns about his age. I think to a question of one of my colleagues, he said, that's your judgment, suggesting it's the media's judgment. There's no shortage of published polls that suggests Americans have concern about his age and stamina, and it's been put in all sorts of different ways. So is the president out of touch with what Americans feel about this issue?
So, look, obviously when it comes to the report more broadly, you just heard from my colleague, Ian Sams, that part of the report we don't think lives in reality, and that's what he was speaking to, where comments were made in that report about that, obviously about his memory that we don't believe lives in reality. And no, I'm going to answer your question. Just give me a.
Oh my God! Oh my God! This is how far it's gone, you guys. It doesn't live in reality. None of us are living in reality, folks. And Lily, thank you for becoming an American patriot. Oh my God. What the hell do we live in then? Are you guys blown away by this?
I'm going to answer your question. When you have a president that has been one of the most productive, if not the most, you would assume is a president that is indeed in touch with where the American people are, right? That would assume that the president understands what's going on around the kitchen table when Americans are sitting around the kitchen table trying to figure out how are they going to deal with the economy? How are they going to deal with the health care? So in our opinion, in my opinion, he is very much in touch with what Americans are feeling out there as it relates to lowering costs, as it relates to making sure that we beat Big Pharma. This isn't the president who understands what the American people are feeling. Look, as it relates to his age, as it relates to what has been said in this report, it is something that we don't believe lives in reality in the sense of this is a president. I've known this president since 2009. I've known this president. He has been not just my boss, but a mentor to me. And no one in this building would say that what we saw in this report about his memory. Everybody sees somebody who works very, very hard, has spent hours with him, understanding exactly where the American people are and what they're feeling, and also how to deliver on those critical, important issues to them.
Your argument.
That's insane. That was insane. I mean, that is blasphemy all the way through. This is they spent hours with him. She can't even get in the Oval Office with him. We did a whole story that was showing how she's not able to sit down with Joe Biden, but Joe Biden's willing to sit down with John Kirby rather than her. And that's why there's a scuffy between her and John Kirby, because John Kirby's getting more podium time than she is because she can't answer any questions. And she's going to sit there and lie to all of us and say this president's coherent. He's sharp as a tack, folks. He's all there. He's talking to fucking dead people, Karine. He's talking to dead people. Come on.
On the report and the assertion that it's gratuitous is well taken.
Hey, hand to God in the live chat. Let me know. Do you think Joe Biden's talked to Abraham Lincoln? Let me know in the live chat. Has Joe talked to Abe? Can Abe rub off on Joe a little bit of honesty, right? Rubbing off on Joe. Who else has Joe ran into in the White House? Reagan? Washington? Adams? Like, who's Joe talking to in the White House? I'll tell you what, he's not talking to them long enough because they haven't given him enough wisdom to run this country.
As well as what you believe is his performance. I get that. Yeah. But he seemed to be playing with a different set of facts. The facts are that this is an issue that Americans are concerned about. And he's saying that it's just the media's judgment.
Right, but he's also joked around with all of you and talked about and said some things about his age in a way that he understands where people are. He actually said that in his answer. He has also mentioned his old pal Jimmy Madison, right? He gets it. He gets how he's viewed. He gets what people see and what's written about him and what the American people also see. But there are other things to note, right? McCarthy, when he was speaker, said that he has found the president mentally sharp in meetings. You know, there's stories like that from, as they're saying it quietly, privately, House Republicans and other Republicans in Congress. But there's reports from all of you who have said that they have interviewed some of these folks and have said the president is sharp. The president, when they have a conversation with the president, he understands the issue. I mean, we saw it at the last State of the Union. He was able to negotiate while giving a very important speech, about 90 minutes, to the world. Millions of Americans watch as he was able to negotiate with House Republicans in the room. So people see that also for themselves. They also see that for themselves as well.
So does the president feel that this is the result of Americans being concerned about his age is just based on a media narrative and it's not based in reality?
What I'm saying is that he understands what people may think. He's actually joked about it. He actually has joked about it, saying Jimmy Madison and have said many other things. He says, I know people think I'm 40 years old. Like, he's made jokes about it. So he gets it.
I know people think I'm 40. Joe probably thinks he's 40. Joe doesn't know where he's at. Joe doesn't know he's president. Joe doesn't know his age, Karine. He can't even tell you that he's president and what year he's been vice president. So, Joe forgot that he likes chocolate chip ice cream.
What I am saying in front of you today is that he has results. There are results. His record, the data shows that this is a president that gets where the American people are.
I love that question, Lily. The hope is after this, I will record a Spooky Adventures video and have that uploaded to Spooky Adventures. If you're not a subscriber to Spooky Adventures, we explore the supernatural, paranormal, and explained. Kind of a fun little time for us. And that's on a whole nother channel. Check it out.
And has delivered in that way, whether it's the economy, whether it's healthcare, even on the global stage. What other leaders have said about him, right? What he has been able to bring leaders together, more than 50 countries, to deal with an issue, a war, to be very clear, in Ukraine, where the brave people of Ukraine are fighting against Mr. Putin's aggression. So world leaders see it. Leaders on the other side of Pennsylvania, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, see it. And so that matters as well. And that's what we're trying to say to you as well. It is that we have seen and we have heard from others that this is a president that has delivered, and this is a president that's going to continue to do so for the American people. Okay,
thanks, Karine. You've downplayed concerns about the president's memories in situations where he's mixed up certain things. You've said it happens and it's common. But yesterday we saw the president again have a mix-up with the president of Egypt, with the president of Mexico. So how do you explain that? Is it not valid that voters would have these concerns?
Look, what I would say is this. This is a president that has had relationship with world leaders for more than 40 years. He has. And at times, and I even said this yesterday, has he misspoken, as many of us do. I've laid out some examples of even Speaker Johnson just on TV, on Meet the Press on Sunday, who said he supports Iran when he meant to say he supports Israel. It happens. It truly, truly happens. In that same answer that he gave, he actually gave an incredibly detailed answer on the overlapping dynamics in the Middle East as he was responding to the question that he received from one of your colleagues. And look, I want to quote one more person, as I've been quoting folks this today. Yara Rosenberg at the Atlantic said, Biden has gaff names his entire career. His entire career. It is not uncommon that he has done that, like many of us do. And he said he was clearly talking about Egypt and named Sisi and laid out his policy and the broader issues in detail. Twitter just isn't interested in that, right? And so look, this is a president who has the experience. You've heard me say this, he's been senator for 36 years. He's been obviously vice president for 8 and now president. He has these long relationships with leaders. I think what's important here is to remember is that when it comes to the essence of the issue at hand, he understands that and has dealt with that probably, better than any modern day president, because of the record that we have seen, because of what has presented in front of him
She's going to quadruple down now and say, oh, look at his stamina. He's better than any modern president. I'll put him up against anybody in the country in terms of stamina, mental clarity. Folks, understand this. And I know that you do. Democrats watch these press briefings and eat this up. Oh, he's so clear. Look at him. Who's that lady? Oh God, she's like on CNN. Anyway, she's an idiot. There's this lady, I can't think of her name. Rachel Maddow. There you go. Rachel Maddow was being challenged by somebody else on CNN just like 2 days ago. And Maddow goes, well, he rides a bike. That was her conclusion as to why he's mentally fit. Because he rides a bicycle. Lady, he fell off the bicycle stationary. This is the same thing that's echoed by Joy Behar of The View. She goes, well, he exercises every morning. Okay. What, putting on his slippers? Come on. It's so asinine.
We look at what's going on in the world, what's going on in Ukraine, what's going on in the Middle East.
How did the president react when he first saw the report?
I'm not going to get into, private discussions, private conversations with the president.
And just to follow up quickly, I think Justin had asked this before, but Ian Sams was making this argument that these are notes that he was reading from his own personal notes, from his own personal diary, but that can still be classified information even if it was stuff he had written to himself. So is the White House disputing that there was classified information there?
So look, I'm not going to get into, Ian spent a good couple of minutes going back and forth and answering that question. I don't have anything else beyond what Ian, my colleague, shared here. I think the bigger picture here is that the case is closed, and I think that's what the American people also should know as well. And so I'm just not going to get into details from here. Okay.
Thanks, Green. With concerns about the president's age, are there any plans within the White House to have him engage more with the press, engage more? He decided not to do the interview before the Super Bowl that many presidents have done. Has there been any considerations about revisiting that or other sorts of engagement to, as you said, many people in the White House do not see the image of him that the report depicts? Are there conversations about trying to change that perception among the American people?
I mean, look, you saw, your colleagues were, I think, were you in the room, Tyler, yesterday? Your colleagues and yourself were able to see the president and ask questions yesterday. He did that, I believe, if not the day before yesterday, he did that a couple of times this week, I think about 3 times, engaging with the press. It's just something that he does pretty often. And we're going to try and obviously pick moments. He's going to, on his own, have moments where he's going to want to walk over and talk to all of you, as he's done many times before. We're going to continue, obviously, to your question, yes, we're going to find many different ways to engage with the press. That's something that we think is very important. It's important to take your questions. It's important to hear from all of you and hear directly what's on the mind of the American people, as well as what we believe is on the mind of the American people, and take questions. So that's not going to change. I don't have anything.
But I'm just wondering if there's been more conversation in the White House in the last 24 hours about a sense of urgency to try to get the president.
I hear the question, but he literally took questions from all of you 3 times this week. 3 times. Once when we were on the broad.
But just more broadly about getting the president out more to try to combat the idea that he has memory issues I hear your question, but we literally did
I was on the road with the president from Thursday last week until Monday evening. We went to Detroit, or Michigan. We went to Michigan. We went to California. We went to, we went to Vegas. The president has been out there, and.
So that's 5 days. Has anybody seen much of the president in 5 days? The only thing I've really seen is the gaffes that this guy's done. He should be up there instead of her right now, explaining to the American people why he had classified documents, and not Ian Sams and her. We all know why they're not putting him on the podium. He's never set foot on there. I'm not even sure he knows how the hell to get there. He didn't know how to get to his own Oval Office. We all seen that videotape. So they're hiding. It's you guys, really, it is, in my opinion. Okay, not everybody has to agree with this, of course. I think this is one of the biggest cover-ups in American history. The fact that you have a president that has dementia, that was voted in and elected by the Democrat Party to run this country, but isn't in fact running the country, or should I say the executive branch. And that they're going to sit there for 3 years, going on 4, lying to all of us that this dude is mentally sharp. I mean, how is that not the biggest cover-up? We've never seen anything like it before.
That's something that we're going to continue to do. And so he wants to be out there to talk directly to the American people. You hear us say that all the time. And you've seen him do that throughout the month of January. And now, obviously, we're in February. We're going to continue doing that as we have been for the last 2 to 3 years. It's not going to stop. Okay.
Thanks, Kareem. A question about Israel.
All right, so we're going to see if there's anybody here that actually tends to ask good questions, because I want to see, did she get to Peter Doocy at all? She didn't give Peter Doocy a question last White House press briefing, which I thought was bogus. We all know why she didn't take one of his questions. Okay, so I actually like Wajia's stuff. I think that's how you say her. Wajia. She asks good questions every now and then.
Tonight, soon time comes, we'll certainly share that.
Thank you, Karine. Last night, soon after the president's remarks about Israel, the administration announced a national security memo that calls for the State Department to obtain written assurances that countries that receive weapons from the U.S. will use those weapons in accordance with the law of war. Jake Sullivan, Kirby, others have previously said that the U.S. already requires those assurances. So why did the administration feel the need to formalize that and ask for it in writing now?
So look, so this memorandum that you're speaking of, it emerged in part with our discussions with members of Congress. So this obviously memo came out yesterday. And so it's called the National Security Memorandum. It outlines the standards that countries must adhere, as you just laid out. But I also want to be clear, there are no new standards in this memo. We are not imposing new standards for military aid. That's not what is in this memo. Instead, we are spelling out publicly the existing standards by the international law, including the law of armed conflict. So we are also, one thing that we are doing is creating a new annual report to Congress that members have requested. This is in request because of the interest of transparency.
I'm curious if this has to go with the fact that Ukraine stole $40 million that was supposed to go to military-grade equipment and never did. So in the same way, you guys, does it not blow you guys away that we're $34 trillion in debt, which Putin brought up in his interview with Tucker Carlson, and how insane that is? That you have even a dude from Russia that clearly wasn't all there himself. Putin could not explain himself coherently, which is insane. But even he thinks it's insane. And these people are talking about, oh, we're sending billions here, people are stealing it there, we're giving terrorists billions and millions. It's insane. All right, let's see if we get to Peter Doocy here. Did she? Oh, okay, we do got Peter Doocy. Of course she's going to save him for the end. Of course she saves this guy for the end. You want to know why she does this? It's because it gives her an out. If she doesn't like the question, it's too hard for her, she can run away.
Thank you, Corinne. If the special counsel says President Biden's got significant limitations on his memory, then who is helping him run the country?
The President of the United States runs the country. The Commander-in-Chief runs the country.
How can he be trusted with the nuclear codes if, I get that you're saying that nobody in the building would say that he's got an issue with his memory, but just a little part of what we get to see, he's made mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake on camera this week.
So I'm going to be very clear here.
Yes! Other than Phil Wegman, And Wajaya's first question, and Peter, these are the best three. These are the best three today. I've said this, if this is what we're seeing in public view, can you imagine how insane it must be behind closed doors? Can you imagine this guy's probably walking around the White House without his clothes on because he doesn't know where he's at? He's looking for the shower. So wild.
The reality is that report, that part of the report, does not live in reality. It just doesn't.
So the special counsel is lying about the president.
The reality of the report is that it doesn't deal in reality.
It was gratuitous. You heard from Ian Sams, my colleague. It is unacceptable, and it does not live in reality. That is just the facts. And look, it is a closed case. That is what the special counsel said. And what matters is that the president in the last 3 years has delivered on the economy, has delivered on healthcare, has turned this country around after the last president left us with an economy that was in a tailspin. That's what.
Is she insane? The last president, one of the greatest presidents in modern history, Donald J. Trump, Mr. 45, God please 47, is going to sit there and blame the guy for an economy that's in a tailspin because you had China release a fucking virus on the globe and everybody was shut down? Really? You're going to blame the dude for that? You're going to blame him for the lady that blames everybody and anything for their causes, I mean, the Democrat Party and Joe Biden's causes, the Putin price hike, is Xi Jinping, okay, all these things, is going to blame Trump for the economy, and then you're going to brag about, well, we brought it back. Lady, it was shut down. You just turned on the keys and you started the engine again. Of course it's going to come back. And even though it came back, you sat there and drug it down still, which is a remarkable thing with 9.1% inflation. Paying $8 here in LA for gas prices. Carton of eggs is through the roof. A box of cereal is like $8 here in California. A bag of chips is $5.99. But don't worry, you guys. Economy's doing great. They got it all handled. Joe Senile. Oh, God.
What we were dealing with. That's what we were dealing with. If you think about the world leaders and issues that have been going on in this country for the past 2-3 years, not in this country, in the world, right? When you think about Ukraine, the president was able to bring together NATO allies. They've been the strongest than they've ever been. And make sure that we are providing what Ukraine, the brave people of Ukraine, need as they're fighting aggression, Putin's aggression. And that is what this president has been able to do. His experience as former senator, as former vice president, and now president, has gotten us to a place where we've been able to turn things around in a way that we meet the needs of the American people, whether it's domestic issues or national security issues. And that is what matters. That part of the report does not live in reality. Bye, everybody. Have a great weekend.
She runs off.
The president stopped her.
She runs off. Oh, my God. Blue, what? I don't know what's going on with Blue's guy. Blue's is going crazy today with the gifting of subs. So I guess it's a good day for you guys to be in the chat. This man's going off the chain. I appreciate it. I always love people that are able to become members. Hopefully that encourages other people as well. But damn, Blues, you're killing it today, baby. You're killing it. Wow. I don't know what to say. Again, you know, that's hard-earned money that's going towards the show and allows us to upgrade. So I really appreciate it. I hope all of you guys appreciate Blues hooking it up there. Well, that's the White House press briefing. It's a clown show. I know all of you know that. It's a freaking clown show. I'm more baffled than anything of they're gonna sit there and lie about the things that are inside the document. They're gonna sit there and lie about Joe Biden's mental finesse. They're gonna sit there and lie about what's actually going on in the world. They're going to sit there and lie and blame everything on Trump and everybody else for their problems and never take responsibility for anything, which is insane. Oh, Joe Biden, well, he got off scotch-free. Yeah, everybody knew that Joe Biden wasn't going to get prosecuted, you guys. That's it. Look Hillary Clinton had a server while she was taking a dump in her bathroom, and she sat there and bleach spit it, wiped the whole thing, go, I had no idea that I couldn't have a server with classified document on into my bathroom. And then she passed out, right? This is a lady that had her staffers smash cell phones to get away with things. She deleted emails and never got prosecuted. I never expected Joe to get in trouble for this. I mean, hell, Joe has actual money coming from China into his brother's bank account, into his own bank account. He has fraud risk on all his companies that you would never see in your lifetime, and probably meet anybody in your lifetime that has these fraud risks associated with their bank accounts. Hunter Biden has footage of him snorting crack cocaine out of a prostitute's ass. Nothing happens. So I didn't expect anything to happen. The big thing of this, and this is why I saw the strategy that they were doing, is that Joe Biden's off his rocker, and they don't want that to be the issue. They want it to be the issue of talking about the classified documents. That's how bad it is. That's how bad Joe Biden's memory is. They would rather talk about him breaking the law and getting away with it than talk about his mental finesse, of which they wouldn't even let him be a defendant in a courtroom, let alone, hey, now he's supposed to be president for another 4 years, and Democrats are all for this, about 23%. Insane stuff, folks. Insane stuff. By the way, you guys are hilarious in the chat. That's why I struggle doing live stuff with you, because my personality is I laugh at everything. But it was a pleasure hanging out with y'all on this fine Saturday morning. Blues hooked everybody up today. I appreciate you guys always watching and supporting. Please don't feel, again, I just want to emphasize this. You guys know I love you. Please don't feel like you have to support in terms of money. You guys watching and always hanging out and just having fun, that's what it's all about. Even if we weren't making money here on the show, we would still be doing it. You guys giving your hard-earned money to a knucklehead like me in a freaking closet, you know, I'm no different than all of you. I'm just an average Joe with a mic and a camera that loves to hang out with y'all. But I hope you have a blessed weekend. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so before we head out, who's winning the Super Bowl? I don't watch football. I'm a hockey fan. But who the heck is winning the Super Bowl here? I love you guys. You guys are great. Really, I do mean that. You guys are freaking awesome. I always brag that we have the best community. I don't, honestly, I watch a lot of people. I'm in their live stream. I love Dan Bongino. I love ABL. I love these people. But when I look at their live stream, there's nobody that knows each other. We all know each other. You know what I mean? We need more live. I'm going to try to do more live, my friend. If I could do Saturdays, that'd be key. It's just tough because, like I mentioned, I work like 3 jobs. It's tough for us guys here. Chiefs by 10. Okay, Blues isn't just giving us a winner. Blues is giving us some detail here. Chiefs by 10. Lily says Chiefs. Okay. I appreciate that, Brian. I appreciate that, brother. The Big Mac Daddy. Anybody got to the 49ers? Everybody's saying Chiefs. Everybody's saying Chiefs. Are 49ers like not good? Chiefs by 10 in overtime. Wow. Okay. Everyone. Okay. 10. Yeah. 3. Yeah. So actually I go to work in a little bit here. So obviously you guys know I'm a educator full time. And then we do this. We do financial coaching. God, why am I slip? And I'm also, I guess, quote unquote, professional referee. And I say professional because I get paid for it. But yeah. So when you guys, just a preface, if you don't see a show uploaded, that just means like I physically either don't have the energy, I just don't have the time, because I'm working. So please don't feel like, oh, I'm just slacking. It's just like, holy crap, I don't know when I'm going to get this in. Also, too, Pat, shout out to Pat for bringing this up. You guys, if something wonky is going on with YouTube, I just want to preface again, I don't delete comments. I don't ban anybody. I don't delete anybody. If your comments or you get unsubscribed, I don't do any of that. I don't even know how to unsubscribe people. Not that I would. So I just want to preface that we're getting screwed with YouTube left and right. And I think we'll do a live stream one day. And I want to show you the analytics and get your guys' take, because I teach statistics and finance and all that stuff. And even for me, and I've showed others, I'm like, this is it doesn't make sense. I think we're being shadow banned fully. Guys, I have almost 50K. And the amount of impressions I get, meaning people seeing my stuff, is less than 1,000 sometimes. 50,000 and you're only showing it to 1,000. Doesn't make sense. Have a great day, CC. Thanks, guys. Well, we'll wrap it up there. I guess the Chiefs are supposed to win the Super Bowl. We'll see, my friends. Pleasure hanging out with all of you. We might have a short little episode tomorrow. Hopefully, I can get in a Supernatural Saturday, right? Supernatural Saturday. I still am on that. Spooky Adventures. And actually, you guys here, I'll give you the Spooky Adventures information. I know some of you are asking. And we're trying to grow that channel too. And if you guys want to take off, feel free. I just want to make sure that we have the Spooky Adventures link for y'all right here. Have a great day, folks. There you go. That's the Spooky Adventures. If you, let's see. Yeah, there you go. So that link works for y'all. We'd love for you to go check that out. We have a lot of fun. It's goofy. It's silly. YouTube has yeah, Brian, it is. Yeah, it's a headache. We are in Rumble, but Rumble, you know, honestly, Rumble's not even putting out the videos either. So Rumble, we're there, but Rumble's even a headache too, to believe it or not. So I think Rumble favors a lot of the bigger guys and will push their content more than anything else. Did you see Kelly's membership? I don't know. Did I? Let me see. Oh, I did. Yes, Kelly, thank you so much. Sorry, I had the screen covered. You guys' chat for a little bit. Kelly, thank you so much. Become an American Patriot. God bless. I love that. Thank you. Wow, we got a lot of new members today. This is awesome. And thank you for letting me and notify me that somebody became a member, because I think that's important to call people out when they contribute their hard-earned money. Kelly, thank you. American Patriots, left and right. I love it. Anything for me before we leave, folks? I did see somebody mentioned, it might have been Blues or somebody mentioned Tucker Carlson's interview. I saw clips of it. I didn't see the whole thing. My big takeaway is, and Tucker reiterated this on a separate whole video, that Putin clearly doesn't have to explain himself and his actions to anybody. And that came through in that interview. Was he was very general. He couldn't give specifics, and he couldn't coherently explain himself in terms of why he wanted to do certain things. So that's why it's like, do I want to do a show on it? I don't know if there's much there. And we have to really read into a lot of Putin's thinking, which I don't know if we're even capable of rationalizing his thinking at all. So anywho. All right, folks, I'm going to do a hopefully a Spooky Adventures episode. We'll have that uploaded before I have to go to work. I have to go to work in an hour. So take care, folks. God bless you, American Patriots. Thank you so much for hanging out on this fine Saturday morning. I guess go Chiefs. I don't know. So take care, folks. Take care.